Greetings, everyone. This is Jeff Wilkerson, Professor of Physics at Luther College, bringing you the next in our series of what to look for in the night sky. This week we're talking about April 18th, 2022. So we got a few things to talk about today. We'll get right to it. This week, we've been watching the planets in the morning sky. And it's a good week to continue watching the planets in the morning sky. We'll talk more about this next week. I think the moon's going to slide by here. These things, if you've been watching this, this started out as a triangle, and now these planets have straightened out into a line. So we got Venus, Mars, and Saturn. I've been trying to tweet pictures of this every morning when it's been clear enough to do so. Not very many mornings for us, unfortunately, here lately, but this has been a great chance to observe the planets here in the morning sky. By the end of this week, by the time we get late in the week, you might be able to see Jupiter joining them. Jupiter rises a little more than an hour before the sun. I typically like things to rise an hour and a half before the sun to have a chance to see them, but Jupiter's pretty bright. So you might have a chance to pull that, especially with binoculars, and it's just going to continue that line, a really impressive line of planets in the morning sky. Start trying to look for it this week, and by next week, Jupiter, by the end of the following week, Jupiter probably is going to be where you'll be able to see it. So this is a good chance to get out there in the pre-dawn sky in the morning to take a look at this. The moon will slide through here in the following week. So start working on it this week. Keep enjoying the planets, and be ready to look for Jupiter and do a better job of observing Jupiter, have a better chance of observing Jupiter next week. So then we'll turn our attention to late week. This whole time. So we're in a period of the Lyrid Meteors Shower, and we've talked before about what meteor showers are, where there's debris left over by a comet, gets boiled off the comet as it gets close to the sun, and that debris falls into orbit behind the comet, so it follows the comet's orbit. So when our orbit meets that comet's orbit, every year we crash through that debris cloud, and that causes a meteor shower. So we get these at the same time. Meteor showers occur at the same time every year because we have to be at the same spot in our orbit to hit the orbit of the comet, and they occur in the same part of the sky every year. And we name those meteors showers for the region of the sky where the meteors appear to be coming. Recall, you don't have to actually look at that constellation that they're named for. The meteors could appear far across the sky, but if you trace back where it looked like they came from, the radiant, we call it, the point of origin of those meteors, will lie in that constellation. The constellation is Lyra for these Lyrids that are we're having right now. And it's a fairly broad tunnel of material that we're passing through. So we got a couple of weeks where you'll have some enhanced meteor activity, but the peak should occur sometime around the end of the upcoming week, 21, 22, 23. And the moon is waning, so it'll get better and better and better to observe these as the week goes on, so you don't have moonlight washing out the sky quite so much. The moon's moving through Scorpius and Sagittarius, so you can follow the moon in those constellations, Scorpius and Sagittarius, this week as it gets less and less full, headed toward sort of half full by the end of the week. So I'm going to recommend maybe after midnight is a great time to get out and observe the Lyrids, and maybe after midnight on Friday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, as we have a little bit less moon. It's not going to be a super active shower, I don't think, and with the moonlight's not going to help you very much, but you should be able to see some enhanced meteor activity. Recall that you can see meteors anytime on any night. We're going to run into random debris, and you're going to see these random meteors flying around at different times, and we're going to enhance that background, and they're going to look like they're coming from the constellation Lyra. So I drew the constellation Lyra here for you. There's, I think of Lyra as this parallelogram of stars that sits below Vega, bright Vega up there. Sulfat and Chiliac are these stars down here. That's Beta Lyra. That is a prototype of an eclipsing binary system. It eclipses every 13 days. So this is an interesting eclipsing binary star. 2 stars, 1 star, 2 stars, 1 star you see in their orbit. About right on the line between these two bright stars in the base of that parallelogram of Lyra, that's what we're talking about here, is M57 the Ring Nebula. That's maybe the most famous planetary nebula at all. Low mass stars at the end of their lives will slough off their outer shells as the what happens is as they go through the asymptotic giant branch phase, the hydrogen and helium burning shells move closer and closer and closer to the surface. The core heats up. The core heats up, it pushes that surface layer further out, and the burning shells get further out. And at some point, the surface gets pushed too far out, maybe too abruptly, and it blows that material off into space. And you're left with a white dwarf star in the core and an expanding material outward that is the planetary nebula. And M57, the Ring Nebula, is a beautiful example of this. If you have a small telescope, it's great to take a look at the Ring Nebula. This is a good time to observe it, especially, again, late week once the moon has started to wane just a little bit and not be quite so bright in the sky. If you follow these stars down this direction, we've got a good example. So you go the same distance out and about a half as far down. M57, by the way, is about a third of the way from Beta down this direction. So you go start here at Cheliac and go about a third of the way towards Sulafat down this direction to find the Ring Nebula right on that line. Continue that path on down the same distance and then drop down to the south just a little bit. You'll find Globular Cluster M56. These are both really good objects for a small telescope. You can't, this M57 in particular is tough in binoculars. You need some magnification for planetary nebula typically. They tend to be pretty small objects, easily missed. They look like stars until you slow down, and then you can realize, oh, there's a... So think about this, what that looks like. It looks like a ring. That's why it's called the Ring Nebula. Go figure that, right? And so it's got a dense core here. You can see the white dwarf star is here, and it's got a glow that's in this direction. There's a picture on our website. There's pictures all over the web of the Ring Nebula you can go out and look at. There's a great picture on our site that I've been adding asterisms to the Luther Astronomy website, and we got a nice one of the whole Lyra region so you can see these stars to help guide you to what you're looking at. But think of this as a bubble. So this is a bubble that's expanding out at space, and when you look at the bubble, the part that's coming right towards you is you're looking right through the thin part, perpendicular through the bubble itself, through the shell, and so you can see right through it. And that's this region right in here. The edges of the bubble, you're looking through the thick part. You have to look all the way through the material on the edge of the bubble, and so it looks denser. And so you see the denser ring around here. So start to imagine that. Now you'll look at things like M27, like the Dumbbell Nebula. We'll talk in Vulpecula. We'll talk about that some other time. And yet here we are talking about it today. What a bonus! What a bonus! Anyway, that one is called the Dumbbell Nebula because it's got a knot down in the middle. So sometimes you've got this material expanding out, and that one looks like a bow tie. And what happens is the magnetic field of the star, the region, confines the flow outward in certain directions, and so you get this odd shape of the material outwards. You don't see that in the Ring Nebula. The Ring Nebula looks like a nice, perfect, smooth ring out there. So learn these stars, become familiar, if you're not, with the constellation Lyra. Vega, the big, big, bright star, one of the summer triangle stars. And then you've got the two brighter stars in the base of the parallelogram, two fainter stars up closer to Vega in the parallelogram. If you've got a small telescope and you want to go out and look at M57 and M56, by all means, it's good to do so. Look at the planets in the morning sky, and while you're out there doing that, take time. If you take 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, I think you'll see a few Lyrid meteors that look like they're coming from the constellation Lyra. That's what we got for you this week. It's going to be a fun week. It's good stuff. So hope you have a chance to get out and observe. Hope you have clear skies, and we'll have something new and different for you next week. Take care, everybody. Thanks, as always.